Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because we're taking a look at a topic that honestly touches millions of lives, but is just so frequently misunderstood. Today, we're going right under the hood to look at the physiological reality of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. We're stepping completely away from the stigma and the assumptions. Instead, we're relying strictly on the science to understand exactly what's happening inside the human body.
Okay, let's dive into this core foundation. Right off the bat, we have to establish that PTSD is not a behavioral issue. It's not a sign of weakness, and it is definitely not a personal failure. As you can see from this quote, it's actually a profound biological misfire of our natural survival systems. It's this internal mechanism that's usually there to help us survive dangerous experiences, but for millions of people, it just sort of gets stuck. Section 1. The brain's alarm system.
Throughout our lives, many of us will face severe hardships. Things like the loss of a loved one, violence, or natural disasters. These events generate these massive feelings of danger, which instantly activate a very specific internal security network, the fight, flight, freeze response. And this is crucial. This isn't a conscious choice you make. It's your brain's completely automatic, natural response to extreme distress. It's biologically designed with just one single purpose, and that's to keep you alive during deeply overwhelming experiences. But how exactly does it pull that off?
Section 2. The chemical cascade. And this brilliantly illustrates the microscopic level where the biology of trauma really unfolds. When that internal alarm goes off, a specific neurological pathway called the HPA axis springs into action. It shoots urgent signals straight down to the parasympathetic nervous system network. This network then talks directly to the adrenal glands and internal organs. And then, bam, step 3 kicks in. A massive chemical cascade floods your body with stress hormones. Finally, those chemicals force immediate physical changes. Your heart rate accelerates, you start breathing faster, your muscles tense up, your biology is literally bracing for impact.
Section 3. When the alarm persists. Let's move to and see how this builds over time. In a typical scenario, once a crisis is over, this intense hormonal response settles down. High levels of stress hormones might hang around for a few days or maybe up to a couple of weeks, right? Causing some temporary jitteriness or maybe a few nightmares. But we really need to look at what happens when this internal alarm refuses to shut off. For a small percentage of traumatized individuals, these severe symptoms just keep going. And when they last for more than a month, or they vanish only to suddenly reappear months later, that is exactly when we cross the diagnostic threshold for PTSD.
Now, you might be wondering, why does this persist for some people and not others? Well, things like genetics, the sheer intensity of the stress, or pre-existing mental health conditions all play a role. Honestly, the exact underlying cause is still a bit of a medical mystery, but a leading theory points straight at cortisol. That's a major stress hormone. The idea is that cortisol keeps constantly re-triggering that fight-flight-freeze response. This perpetual state of alarm actually reduces the brain's functional capacity, which leads to a whole cascade of negative symptoms.
Section 4. Categories of symptoms.
So how does this invisible chemical loop actually show up in a person's everyday life? Living with this biological alarm usually falls into 4 main categories. First up, intrusive thoughts. This means incredibly vivid dreams or intense flashbacks. Second is avoidance, going out of your way to dodge anything that brings up memories of the trauma. Third, we see pervasive negative thoughts and feelings, things like deep fear, sudden anger, or heavy guilt. And fourth are reactive symptoms, like snapping easily or having major sleep issues. And look, it's really important to note that not everyone gets every single one of these, and the intensity totally varies. It's a highly individualized experience.
Section 5. Triggers and isolation.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it illustrates one of the absolute hardest parts of PTSD, the extreme sensitivity to triggers. Triggers are physical or emotional cues that the brain has falsely but strongly linked to the original trauma. Think about the smell of a campfire. For most of us, that's completely harmless, maybe even cozy. But for someone who survived being trapped in a house fire, that exact same smell is catastrophic. Because of their altered biology, that simple scent restarts the exact same neurochemical cascade we just talked about. Their body is instantly flooded with hormones, bringing all that panic rushing back as if the trauma is happening all over again right in that very second.
Just imagine living with a brain that constantly turns everyday sensory details into a life or death alarm.
Because these triggers can be so completely unpredictable, survivors often go to massive lengths to just avoid them. And sadly, this avoidance usually leads to deep, profound isolation. Survivors end up feeling invalidated, ignored, and just completely misunderstood. It's almost as if their entire life has been put on pause by their own biology, all while they have to watch the rest of the world just effortlessly keep moving forward. Section 6. Healing the secret wound. But here's the good news. The science doesn't just explain the suffering, it actually lights the path out of it. There is so much hope here. Because we know this is a biological and psychological dysfunction, there are established real ways to heal. If you or someone you know is struggling, step 1 is always a professional evaluation. From there, things like psychotherapy are incredibly effective at helping patients understand and manage those triggers. Certain medications can really take the edge off those intense biological symptoms too. And don't discount self-care. Things like mindfulness and getting regular exercise do absolute wonders for regulating the nervous system. But crucially, if you're supporting a friend or family member, your role is absolutely vital. Social support, genuine acceptance, and empathy, those are game changers. Let them know you believe what they're experiencing and make it crystal clear that you do not blame them for their body's biological reactions. So the crucial point is this. PTSD is often called the secret wound because, well, unlike a broken arm, it leaves 0 visible marks. But as we've explored today, the internal, biological reality is totally undeniable. Just because this is an invisible disorder absolutely does not mean it has to be silent. When we understand the biology, we literally shatter the stigma.
I want to leave you with this final thought to really chew on. We've seen today that our bodies are incredibly designed to protect us from harm. But when those internal alarm systems misfire and break down, the person suffering is left completely defenseless against their own chemistry. So how can we use our empathy, our patience, and our new understanding to better protect each other? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning.
Welcome to the